Architecture is infamous for handing us tons of work all the time. Usually what ends up happening is that we start to lose interest in some of the work. All this work that we don't want to do begins to pile up, and then we have a huge problem. We enter this perpetual cycle of needing to catch up, therefore the work we do is uninspired and just plain crap. The simple solution is just doing the work. That way you won't enter that vicious cycle. But let's be honest with ourselves, sometimes we just don't feel like doing the work at all. For example, some of us love building models, others like to render. Some of us like to develop plans. We have no problem doing what we love to do. The problem comes when we have to do what we're not really interested in. Sometimes you're okay with working on the things you don't want to work on, but you get completely turned away when you realize it's a long list of things you don't actually want to do. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Person A, let's call him Pigeon. Pigeon needs to do some work. He's got to work on a project. He's been pushing this project around all week long, but now he's run out of time. He turns on his computer to begin the project, but all of a sudden he's grown super tired, so he decides to take a nap. And then he rushes his project when he wakes up. I don't know about you, but Pigeon used to be me all the time. Luckily, I've gone through this way too many times, and over the years I've figured out a system that will pretty much work for anyone, and now I'm going to show it to you. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but if you want the system, you're going to want to head over to my website and pay one small fee of... Just kidding, just watch the video. By the way, check out the description on this video. There I include links to our chat, social media, apps, products and books I recommend, and anything else that's important at the time. Now onto the system. There are 5 parts to this system. We can think of it like an acronym. First we have the F, then we have the U, then we have... Okay, never mind, there's no acronym. Let's switch the order around. So S is to stop relying on your memory. U is for utilizing a list. C is to combine simple and complex tasks. Yeah, this is not looking much better. And the last 2 are F and K. So those are the 5 steps that make up the system. Now let's start with the S. When you have work to do, the first thing you need to do is to stop relying on your memory. I say this for 2 reasons. The first is that when you rely on your memory, your brain starts to add up all the work you have to do, and it starts to estimate how long it's going to take to do it. If it thinks it's going to take a long time, then you're more likely going to feel tired and lazy. And there are even more chances that you'll procrastinate and leave all your work till the last minute. If instead your brain thinks that the amount of work you have to do is not that much, and you'll be able to finish quickly, then naturally you're going to wait until the last minute to do it. And I'm sorry brain, but your guesstimating powers are not too refined. Second, you might not remember the smaller tasks that you have to complete, and overseeing the little things means that the quality of your work is going to suffer, whether it's now or in the long run. The point is that you don't want to be leaving all that stuff up to your memory. It's just going to stress you out having all those tasks floating around in there. So just write it down once and free up your mind to focus on other, more important things. The next part is to utilize a list. Start out by writing down everything you need to do. It helps if you make a chronological list, that is, a list that goes in order of things when they need to be done. For example, you can't render the lobby of your project without having the lobby's 3D model made. So the model has to go first and the render has to go second. If you need help making a list, check out my video on organizing your time like an architect. Once you've made the list, here's where the magic begins to happen. I want you to move all the really easy things up to the top. In this example, I've organized my list by days of the week. Then I've taken major tasks and split them up into smaller, easier to manage tasks. Then I moved the simplest to the top. You'll be surprised when you see how much ground you cover by doing this. This happens because seeing yourself complete a lot of tasks in a short amount of time really boosts your confidence, which makes you more productive. Sometimes when we look at everything we need to do, we get overwhelmed. It's like if I tell you to do 100 push-ups. I don't know about you, but that's pretty much impossible for me. But if you break it up into 10 push-ups at a time, it'll be way easier to do. If you do this, you're going to get a lot of work done at a much faster rate, and it's going to build up your confidence to continue to work. But there's one huge problem. If you do all the easy stuff first, you're going to run into this huge wall of complicated tasks that you're not going to want to work on. So our next step is to combine simple and complex tasks. This is pretty straightforward. You're going to go to that dark pit that is the bottom of your list, and you're going to grab some of the complicated tasks and sprinkle them between your easier tasks. This allows you to gain some momentum from completing the easier tasks, and then that momentum is used to knock out the complicated tasks, followed up again by some easy tasks. That way your momentum will be slowed, but it won't ever be fully halted. You know, all this list making and organization is great and all, but what if you just don't feel like working at all? Well, then you have to find your trigger. Finding your trigger is all about finding that one thing that helps you get started. This is something that is completely different for everyone, but I'll tell you about mine. Before, I used to wake up and snooze my to-dos over and over and over again until I ran out of time. Little by little, I started to realize that whenever I had music playing in the background, my mind just felt more comfortable with the idea of sitting at a computer and doing some work. I don't know why my brain works like this, but it does, and you have to find what works for you. So now when I wake up and I have something to do, I turn on my computer and play some music. As I'm opening up Spotify, YouTube, or Pandora, I also sneak open AutoCAD or Revit or whatever program I'm going to work on. I may not be ready, but simply having the music in the background and seeing that empty Revit canvas allows me to start working sooner than if I just kept thinking about having to do something at all. This is similar to the 10-minute rule, which is another great technique. The 10-minute rule suggests that if you need to do something, tell yourself that you're just going to do it for 10 minutes. It's okay if you need a break after those 10 minutes, but you'll find that usually you continue to work after those 10 minutes are up anyway. This has shown me that when you have to do something, thinking about it is what makes you tired, and starting is the hardest part. So instead of sitting, thinking, and waiting, find your trigger, cue in your list, and just like that, you're on the road to having some real free time real soon. After that, let's kill some distractions. The key to being productive is continuity. When you don't have to think, you're able to produce more. That's one of the reasons why having a list is so important, and that's why you have to try hard to limit all distractions. This seems like a simple, common sense concept, but not all distractions are easily noticeable. For example, I love to listen to podcasts while I work. Actually, it's one of my favorite things about this career, the ability to listen to something while you're working. But I've noticed that when I listen to podcasts for more than an hour, I tend to become less productive and my work becomes sloppier. I think this is because even though I'm able to work while I'm listening to others talk, my brain is still actively storing information, which eventually makes me tired. The fix, in my case, for this is to alternate between podcasts and music every hour or so that I'm giving my brain time to actually relax while I'm designing or drafting. Clutter is also a type of distraction because it makes your workspace an unpleasant place to be at. You might also find yourself making an excuse for having to clean your space before you get to work. This will ultimately stretch out the amount of time it will take you to actually sit down and start working. So ultimately, keep yourself free of distractions and clutter. I would like to point out that some of you might feel like this system will not work for you because you've fallen behind. Maybe you didn't take your work seriously enough at first and now you have that pile of work to deal with. First of all, this is totally normal. I've never met one person, including myself, who has never fallen behind at least once in their life. So don't dwell on the fact that you're behind and now have to deal with the consequences. Dwelling on that will just make you procrastinate even more than you already have. Also, don't point out excuses as to why you fell behind. What's done is done. It's very important to remember that there's no going back in time. There's only moving forward, and concentrating too much on the past will negatively affect how you move in the future. So even if you've fallen behind, this method can still work for you, but you have to add a new step before you do the rest. And that step is to accept that you've made a mistake, learn from it, and then you can start to organize yourself using the tips I offer in this video so that you can avoid falling into the same trap going forward. I'm constantly looking for ways that I can use to offer additional help, aside from these videos of course. I always post relevant information on the description of my videos, so always check that out. I also want to take this time to go over some of the current ways that you can get additional help. The first is the Pigeon Head Architecture online Revit course. It's a course I developed to help anyone who needs to start using Revit yesterday. I created it in a way that's quick, easy, and doesn't spend too much time on explaining the fundamentals of the program, but instead teaches you how to actually use the program so you can start using it immediately. Second is the Discord chat. This is perfect for anyone who has questions about the field or school or pretty much anything that has to do with architecture. It's a really cool community and we welcome any questions, comments, doubts, and even work. That's right, we have a chat room that's made specifically so you can share your sketches and or projects and receive feedback. It's really cool. We also have a Reddit page. It's important to note that this page is available for you guys, but currently does not have that many members, so if you ask a question or post a discussion topic, chances are it won't be as active as the Discord chat is. I still created it though because eventually, once enough people join, I think it'll be a good resource for you guys as well. Additionally, we have the Instagram page. This is not the most active Instagram page on the planet, but it's one of the best ways, beside the Discord, to get in contact with me. Also, I plan on adding behind the scenes content for these videos on that page, so check it out. Finally, I don't know if you've noticed, but I answer the majority of comments left on my videos, and yes, even on the older videos. I check my comments often, and when I get a notification for a new one, I usually respond. So leaving comments on these videos is actually a great way to get in contact with me as well. Thank you guys for watching. See you down in the comments.